Alright, keep your eye on the screen. We're going to go over camera movement and camera shifting or transition from one camera to another. You'll see that was our subtle blend from one camera to another camera. A built-in node that will be on the release of the StoryNode Editor. So I'm going to go ahead and go over how to set up the scene. We're going to use a demo scene from the asset store. So I'm going to use one of my favorite free selected scenes here from the asset store. There's plenty actually of some really good ones, especially just to get your feet wet there in Unity. If it's your first time, if you're experienced, it's still something that I can go ahead and start with really quick. So I'm going to import all the assets here from the asset store for this hand-painted nature set, which is really nice. It's got a really great atmosphere, even without adding like additional post-processing or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and open up the scene. As soon as we open up the scene, we're going to get started with setting up the StoryNode Editor for the first time. So to set this up, I'll pull up the StoryNode Editor window itself, dock it somewhere comfortable. Usually when I personally use it, I keep it on a completely separate tab and I switch back and forth, but for a demonstration, I figured it's a little bit more easier to keep up with. I'm keeping it on the screen at the same time. So I clicked on two buttons, the Story Hub and the Story Canvas. Now what I'm doing right now is I've aligned my editor scene here with the first camera. I'm going to create a story over here on the right. We'll call it the forest. I'll click on done. I selected cinematic playback so it automatically plays back the story. Now this is the first element of the story there. I'm going to connect it and dive inside with the portal button. Now create a chapter node and connect that through to the start node. I'm going to rename it, just call it the forest. Alright, excellent. And now we're going to go ahead and take a deep dive into the chapter node. This is where we'll start a couple of the actions for the camera movement and for the camera transitions. I'm first going to start with a transition first between two cameras. I'm going to pull up the the camera shift node. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and add my second camera because, of course, I'm going to need another camera to shift between. I'll disable the camera itself. We don't need two active cameras on at the same time. Name one camera A, my second camera, camera B, just for simplicity's sake. Now that I have the two cameras set up, I'm going to go ahead and start editing the actual node itself for the scene. But before I do, I'm going to move camera B someplace in a nice position here, somewhere above, so that there's an obvious difference between the scenes of the cameras. I love to align my cameras using Align with View. So you select the camera, you go up to one of the menu options and select Align with View to align with the editor. That's usually my favorite way to position cameras is through the editor by just matching up the view with the editor scene. Now here on the node itself, I connected it to the start node. In the inspector for StoryNode Editor, I'm going to add camera B. So we're going to shift to camera B. And I'm going to put in how quickly I'd like it to shift for, the amount of seconds that I'd like this shift to last. Now once I do that, I'm going to create a quick object here for the director. I'm going to have an automated way by release to create directors. Well, pretty much what they do is just play the story. So I'm just assigning the story to this director, and then we'll go ahead and start the scene. When we play the scene, I'll hit the director. The director starts playing the story itself. Let's see how this worked out. I'll go ahead and click on start, and we'll see if the scene shifts, or the camera view shifts from one camera, camera A, to camera B. Excellent. So it definitely did shift, and that was excellent. We'll go ahead and stop playback right now, and let's go ahead and start adding movement. So what I want to happen is I'd like for camera A to shift to camera B while there's movement in between. So to add some interesting movement there between the transition, not just a boring static view from one to the other. So I've created two movement nodes, camera move nodes, for each camera. I'm going to have both cameras moving at the same time, and then I'm going to pass the transition over from one camera to the other. Now I'm going to set up the first camera move node. I attach camera A to it, and I'm going to set the starting location. First I'll add in that I want this whole transition, this whole movement to be 30 seconds long, and I'm going to set the location, the starting point, and set the move to point. Now what's nifty about this is the camera movement node, it can save the position, the camera position, either from the editor camera or the actual camera's position. Right now I have it set up to obey the editor camera, so as soon as I set the location, it saves the start from location. I'm going to zoom in on the editor camera here, and I'm going to set this as the move to location. Just keep in mind it's using the editor view for convenience. Now I'll do the same thing for the other camera node as well. I'm going to rename this one just to make it easier on me when I'm designing. I'm just going to name it camera A. And I'll add in a color. Colors can sometimes help differentiate stuff. It doesn't have to be done, but it's a nice added benefit or convenience there. So let's work on the other camera move editor node. I'm going to call this camera or cam B. Let's change the color, select like a purple hue. And now what I'm going to do is add camera B to this node, so I'll assign it. But before I do, I'm going to line up my editor view with the location of the camera B. Add in camera B. Make it also 30 seconds long because it's going to be an equal transition, a parallel transition. I'll set the starting location where the editor camera is at, and now I'm going to kind of position the editor camera to the place I'd like the camera to move to. So I'll just drag it. Personally, I've always found moving around in editor view the easiest way to get around my scenes. Moving the cameras around by the transform tool I've always found pretty cumbersome. But I know everyone has different preferences, so you can choose the editor camera or switch it off to use the actual location of the camera itself. So I set the location, the move to, and I'm going to connect it in sequence to the transition, the camera shift node. Pretty much it should move one camera, move the next camera, and then shift. Now we're going to play this and see exactly how this plays out. Alright, I'll get to my story director, hit play, and great, the camera's moving. This is perfect. And it's moving in the direction I set it to move to with the editor camera. But there's a problem. I thought that this should have shifted a long time ago. So what happened? What happened is that the story actually played in sequence, and it's waiting for one node to finish before moving to the next node. But the thing is I want these nodes to move at the same time. So instead of having the story wait for the node to finish, I'm going to turn off these options. So it's pretty much not going to wait for them to finish at all. It's going to jump right past from one node to the next until it gets to the camera shift node. So in essence, the first two nodes are going to play instantly, and then it's going to stop and transition with the last camera shift node. So now when I play it, we get a beautiful transition there. Alright. Ooh, there's an ugly bounce. I noticed that the camera's going way beyond the point where I set it, so it's kind of bouncing back. It looks like I'll need to make a quick change here. So I'm going to go to the camera movement editor here, node. I'm going to change the type of ease out that it has. This is built into Lean Tween, so I'm going to just select an ease out that doesn't spring the camera animation, so I get a nice slowdown at the end. Alright, I'll make the same adjustment to the other camera, camera A, and we're all set. I'm going to shorten up, though, the time of shifting. I don't want it to be so long. I'll make it half the time. And on top of that, I do have the benefit of delaying the camera shift. So as soon as the story gets to the camera shift, it's going to wait about 10 seconds before it starts to shift, so it's not immediate. So now when I play it back, we get some time to enjoy camera A. And after about 10 seconds, it should start transitioning over to our other camera. Perfect. To finish off within the 30 seconds total there. Alright, so that's a demonstration of camera movement and the camera shift. There's plenty of other nodes that I'll have available for launch. That's about it at this time. So I'll go ahead and end this one. Look out for more demonstrations. Feedback's also welcome. And until the next one.